I can't believe I have to make this video, but we need to talk about the ketogenic way of eating. The ketogenic way of eating as a treatment for mental illness comes up a lot in the comments on my videos, community posts, and live streams. Clearly, people want me to talk about it and get my opinion on it, so here I am. And what I'm about to say might ruffle some feathers. It might ruffle a lot of feathers. But 2025 is about me being unapologetically myself, so videos like this one are going to happen. I'm going to talk about how we think keto works, then talk about its relationship to treating mental illness, and then I'm going to explain why I'll never go on it. So if you're down for some opinions, then let's get started. The ketogenic way of eating has a long and storied history, and I'm not going to get too deep into it. But know that it started as a treatment for epilepsy in children in the 1920s. Even though it has its origins way before that. But it wasn't until the 1990s that it truly became popular in the modern day, getting its fame from its contribution to health communities and unfortunately the thinness ideal. And if you don't know what this kind of culture is, well, just know it's a toxic ideology that has caused generation after generation of people to develop bad relationships with food. It promotes thinness, losing something that rhymes with rate, and a specific way of eating. And as you could guess, this causes a lot of people to be unhappy with how they look, how they eat, and how they deal with food. AKA toxic crap that we don't need. Your body is beautiful, my body is beautiful, all bodies are beautiful. And you don't need to constantly be eating in a deficit or be thin as a board to be happy. I'm learning that myself. Anyways, the ketogenic way of eating got popular in the 90s and has maintained a fad sensationalism since then. And there's multiple kinds of keto. But generally, the whole point is to go super low carb and super high fat with some protein in there so that you don't, well, pass away due to lack of nutrition. The ketogenic way of eating teaches your body to burn fat instead of carbs. Your body will burn fat it finds instead. And this creates ketones, which your brain can use for energy when the usual glucose isn't available. It's kind of fascinating that this can be done at all. So that's kind of the basics on how we think keto works. Teach your brain to run off ketones instead of sugar, thus causing something called ketosis, and then you've achieved the whole goal of the ketogenic way of eating. But how does this relate to helping mental health? Well, honestly, there isn't enough evidence to say that it does anything for mental health. And I can't make this video without mentioning the book Brain Energy, where the author seems to propose the idea that all mental illnesses are the result of problems with metabolism, aka how the body converts the food you eat into energy. As part of this theory, the author appears to bring up the idea that if your brain doesn't get enough energy, it won't function correctly. And problems like mental disorders happen as a result of that. So basically, if someone like me makes lifestyle changes that boost my metabolic efficiency, I could lessen the symptoms of my schizoaffective disorder. And this has had viral moments since then. What's important to note here, though, is that this book, which I did read, by the way, doesn't make keto its main focus. Instead, it just talks about how problems with metabolism are supposedly to blame for all mental illnesses, and then lists several metabolic therapies, and keto is just one of the many on that list. It shocked me how little of a role keto played in the book. So it's somewhat surprising to me that so many people use brain energy as a backup for their keto lifestyle when keto is just such a small part of the picture that the author paints. Like quitting drinking is technically a metabolic lifestyle change, but we don't really hear about that. Another one is having a purpose in life. I'm not kidding, that's actually in the book. Now, I want to say that after reading Brain Energy, I don't buy what's in it. But I did need to read it to understand where all these keto supporters are coming from. And that's really all I'll say on the topic of brain energy. Continuing on, the problem here is that a lot of the purported evidence for this idea, meaning using keto to treat mental health conditions, is largely anecdotal, meaning it's borderline hearsay. Let's bring it out to the big picture and talk about the ketogenic way of eating being used to treat mental illness in the context of the general scientific community, because people are looking into this, but not as many as you'd think with how popular keto for mental illness is right now. And the result of all my searching, I don't see good evidence on this. There are a few case studies on PubMed, but beyond those, there was one key study I found that administered the ketogenic way of eating to 31 people in an inpatient setting. And 62% of the people that completed the study were able to lower their psychotropic medication as a result of being on the therapy, which is cool. But that's one study of just 31 people. And not everyone was able to lower their meds. One person had to actually increase theirs and several were unchanged. It also wasn't even consistent. Those included in the final results of the study were on keto for anywhere from 15 to 248 days, and that's quite a range. And that's just one of the more prominent studies that's out right now. In the end, a lot of the current evidence for keto being used in mental health treatment comes from not much at all. It's case reports, observational data, and a few trials with small groups of people. There's a lot of papers about the relationship between psychiatric disorders and metabolism. So there could be support for more hypotheses there, which is cool. But there is no finished large-scale clinical trial of the ketogenic way of eating with peer-reviewed literature saying that it effectively treats any mental illness. There are many ongoing clinical trials that are using keto to treat a wide variety of illnesses, including mental health conditions, which I do like to see. But I also want to see peer-reviewed evidence that shows that keto works in large sample sizes before I'd consider going on something that is a serious and potentially lifelong lifestyle change. And I'll be honest, with the hype around this, I expected to find more data when I decided to do a deep dive. I expected to find evidence that supported what so many people seem to be supporting. But there's not much out there saying that this actually works from a scientific standpoint. Yes, we have people on Reddit saying it helped them or someone they knew. We have forums of people saying, yes, this saved them or a loved one. And all of that is great for those people. I'm not diminishing or invalidating their success with the ketogenic way of eating. I'm glad it's working for them because I do believe it's working for them. But for me in my mental health journey, there's not enough evidence to support the hypothesis that keto would actually help me, because that's the name for what the belief of keto helping mental illness is, a hypothesis that desperately needs true testing and good science. Anecdotal evidence is not enough for me. And while we're on the topic of anecdotal evidence, I asked my NP about this. He informed me that one patient goes on keto every now and then, and every single time they get manic. AKA, according to my provider, it's a bad idea for me, but I'll get to that. So even in my own personal experience, anecdotal evidence seems to have no promise for me. So for now, I'll keep my eye on the clinical trials and on PubMed for actual peer-reviewed data on this whole thing. And until then, I will remain highly skeptical of its efficacy and tolerability, especially since its long-term efficacy and tolerability is unknown. But I want to end this video though by talking about why I'll never go on it, even if I see enough evidence to support that it just might work. Because genuinely, I do not care. I am never going on keto. To put it plainly, over the last year and a half, I have worked very, very hard to develop a neutral relationship with food. And because I struggle with my relationship with food, keto is literally contraindicated, meaning that from a medical and safety standpoint, keto is flat out not an option for someone like me. So it's already off the table for that reason. And I am going to continue to work on that relationship, and so far I've made a lot of progress. But even beyond that contraindication, I love carbs and won't give them up. I love sugar. My brain loves sugar too. I love gummy worms and potatoes and noodles and all sorts of things I couldn't eat if I was stuck on keto for the rest of my life. Because that's what's being suggested here. I'd have to maintain the ketogenic way of eating for the rest of my life. That is, if I actually want to go off all of my psych meds after healing my brain. Yeah. That's a thing. Keto is just too restrictive, and I think it would frankly suck for someone like me. It's hard for many of us to just take our meds every day, and I think it would be difficult for even an average person to follow it for years on end. But I really am someone who is such a foodie when it comes to the world and all the experiences in it. You do not understand, I want to eat everything. I have eaten some really weird stuff, and I plan on continuing that with a lot of foods that are probably not on keto. Because the last thing I want to worry about when going to a new place and trying new foods is going over a daily carb limit. And beyond the restrictive nature and me not doing it because of that, my meds work. They work really, really well. Even if I still hallucinate and have episodes sometimes, my meds still work. But the persistent presence of hallucinations and mood swings is sometimes enough evidence for people to suggest keto to me. What if I told you I was fine? That some symptoms are okay? That I am content with how things are right now? My meds work really, really well, and that is not to be discounted in the face of keto working for a few people. Not every person on psych meds wants to be off of them so bad that they're willing to try anything. Some of us like our meds and like them a lot. I am one of those people. I mean, the choice I'm faced with here is either cut out carbs and eat a lot of fat, with the hopes that it might work, or take my psych meds every day that I know do work. And I choose the meds. So to all of you who comment and ask questions, this is why I'm not on keto. I don't see enough empirical evidence to support the hypothesis that it works. I have a complicated relationship with food, so it's contraindicated, and I don't want to go on it. And honestly, that last point should be enough. I don't want to go on keto. I have no desire to go on keto. So please quit bugging me about keto. I don't care if one day I see evidence that it works. I really genuinely don't give a crap. So yeah, leave me alone. That's all for this video. Sources below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Bye.